Hi everyone, and welcome back to BitKnits. This year I'm trying to use up my scraps by reading and creating a different mitered granny square for each book that I read. For each book I'll choose 3 colors that either reflected the cover art in some way or the overall feeling of the book. At the end of the year I'll have a whole bunch of squares to put together into a nice reading blanket. At least that's the goal of this project anyway. My January stack is right here. I have them all tied together. I read quite a few books in January. Here is my February stack. Quite a few less books read in February. Now let's see what books and what squares I read and made in March. The first book that I read in March was called The Secrets of Midwives by Sally Hepworth. This book is not really what I expected, although I'm not sure what I did expect, to be honest. The story follows 3 generations of midwives, and the reader gets a glimpse into the history and secrets of each. The writing was very well done, and the story did keep me engaged for the most part. I listened to this book in audio version, and I'm finding that sometimes it's hard to pay close attention to the story when I'm listening instead of reading. I think I may have enjoyed it more had I picked up the actual book and read it. The characters were interesting and somewhat unique in this modern world, although some characters I found pretty annoying and unrelatable. Goodreads has an overall rating of 3.87 stars out of 5, and for me I'm pretty close to that. I gave this book 3 stars. For the mitered granny squares, I used beige, green, and blue, and I'm fairly happy with how those colors came together and how the square looks overall. Book 2, We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I'm not going to spend much time discussing the book except to say it was a real struggle to get through. Luckily, I listened to it in audiobook format, otherwise it may have been a did not finish for me. It's about a bunch of teenagers, one of whom has some sort of accident that isn't clearly described until the end of the book. So the majority of the book consists of whiny teenage drama that just didn't feel real to me, or maybe I'm just too old. But regardless, I just didn't enjoy the writing. I didn't enjoy the characters. I didn't even enjoy the thriller mystery aspect at all. Goodreads has an overall rating of 3.67 stars, and I'm nowhere close to this. I give this book 1 star, and even that is a reach for me. Despite all that, I do like how the granny came out in the end. Book 3, One Summer in Savannah by Terah, Shelton, Harris. Can I just start off by saying that for a debut novel, this is fantastic, and what a welcome read compared to the last book. I actually read this one on my Kindle, and I'm so glad I did it. This book got me back into actually reading books instead of just listening to them in audio form. This book is about a woman named Sarah who has a young daughter who was conceived without Sarah's consent back when she was in high school. She left her hometown to get away from the drama that occurred, although no one except her immediate family knew that she had a child. She's called back home when her father becomes ill, and although she is hesitant to go back to a place that has so many memories, both good and bad, she returns to help her father. When she is back home, she has to confront many things from her past, and while that scared her for over 8 years, she realizes that now she is home and confronting these memories, it's helped her to heal. The writing in this book is so well done. I couldn't put this one down and finished it very quickly. I really didn't even want it to end. Goodreads has an overall rating of 4.16 stars, and I'm going to say it's closer to a 5-star for me, which is what I gave it. The colors in this square are yellow, blue, and purple, and I was just going with colors that sort of reflected the cover art of the book that I read, and also just very comforting colors, in my opinion. I love this square. Book 4, The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. Now, I've read a few of her books in the past and thought they were all very well written. The Goldfinch, for instance, was very good. However, this book just went on and on and on and on. I had started this book from probably a good 5 years ago and never finished it. It's a really long book. So I checked out the audiobook from my local library, thinking that I could just listen to it as I'm working or doing whatever around the house. Even the audiobook went on and on and on and on. This isn't a bad book by any means, but there was so much going on, and I feel like instead of lumping all of the issues together in one book, it probably would have worked better as separate novels. The book is structured in sections, so there's only a few chapters, but each one is over 100 pages, if not over 200. It was hard to find a good stopping point sometimes. Okay, so enough about all of that. What is this book about? This book takes place in the South, Mississippi. A family is devastated after their young son is found hanging from a tree. Some think it was an accident, but others, like Harriet, his sister, believe that he was murdered. I just felt it was too much to unpack in one book, the way it was set up and structured. There were parts that just went on and on. Goodreads has an overall rating of 3.47, and I'm a bit under that. I gave it 4 stars only because of the structure of the book. Book 5, The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. The only reason I picked this one up is because I was at the library trying to find something to read. And I came across this one, which is the premise for the Bridgerton series on Netflix. I typically like to read and compare books and TV shows. I've never watched Bridgerton though, at least not yet. So at this point, I just have the book to talk about. This book takes place in London and deals with the wealthy families during that time, like the 1800s. Daphne Bridgerton is one of many siblings in her family and is at the stage in her life where she is paraded around at balls and parties in the hopes of sparking interest in one of the many eligible bachelors. This is not really her thing, and she befriends a duke, Simon, who is friends with her brothers. He is intent upon not marrying ever, but because he is a duke, everyone thinks he is the best catch. Daphne and Simon scheme to pretend they are courting so they don't have to both go to these balls and parties to meet their future spouses. This is a romance, so I think we can all guess what happens between those two. Will they fall in love with each other, or does the whole thing just fall apart? Well, you'll have to read this one to find out, or maybe just watch the show on Netflix. Goodreads rates this one at 3.81, and I'm right about there too. I give it a 3 stars. The writing was good, and while romance is not my favorite genre to read, I did enjoy this one for the historical aspect. There are a few more Bridgerton novels after this one that I probably will pick up and read at some point, and maybe I'll even watch the Netflix version. For this square, I used purples and pinks just to brighten it up and give it that kind of romantic feeling. So there they are, all 5 squares for books that I read in March. Which one is your favorite? For me, I actually like this pink one for the romance, even though that's not my thing. Only because all of the other squares were sort of muted. I used a lot of the beige and green and blue, and they didn't pop as much as this square did, at least for me. I hope you enjoyed this little vlog of me crocheting my March squares. We're already into April, so in just a few short weeks, I'll have my April books up, and we can see what I read in April. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, happy crocheting. Bye.